Hello, beautiful souls. I'm your host, Shakira Moore, and welcome to another episode of the Perspective Matters podcast. So, it is December 31st, 2020, and with just 58 minutes to go until the new year, I had to jump on here quickly just to share with you the lessons I intend to take with me into 2021. I would like to think the prevailing sentiment for 2020 is that it brought several challenges, and it was indeed a difficult year to have experienced. So many different things were thrown at us on so many levels, financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually. We had to overcome a lot. So, to be on the cusp of a new year, and I am certain there are some of us who await 2021 with bated breath, because we started 2020 with so much promise and so much hope and so much excitement. And we were humbled. I was humbled. I was humbled by 2020. So the excitement and the anticipation may be a little bit tempered for 2021, but I encourage you to be excited. I encourage you to have hope and to look forward to what 2021 will bring, because you have come through 2020. You are battle proven. You made it. So, whatever 2021 comes with, whatever it throws at us, I'm going to declare that we will face it and we will overcome, because that is who we are. As human beings, we are resilient creatures. We are adaptable, some more than others, but for the most part, we're adaptable. And I'd like to think that 2020 has equipped us, has prepared us for whatever will come. So I'm looking forward to 2021. I'm excited. I'm anxious. I'm hopeful. And I'm certain that come what may, I will be okay. So I have 7 lessons that I intend to take into 2021. And the beauty about these lessons are they are lessons that were born out of experiences within 2020 and previously. But the year was so stressful and full of so much ups and downs and so unpredictable that most of these lessons felt like they were being learned the first time. But rest assured, lessons have been lodged in the brain and they're worth sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and share the lessons with you, and I will try to pick out what I think is really the order of importance, because I jotted the lessons down in no particular order, but I think for the purpose of this episode, I should really start with least to most. So, here goes. The first lesson I intend to take into 2021 with me: naps are important. And I'll say that one again. Naps are important. It's so interesting. As a child, the tendency was there to fight sleep. You had to be bargained with to take a nap. Negotiations were fierce for you to take a nap or for you to even go to bed as a child. And as an adult, for me, there is no better thing than sleep. So 2020 taught me and reminded me that naps are important. It is a great way for you to refresh yourself. It is an important part of the day in terms of taking breaks, in terms of walking away, in terms of regaining focus. Because working from home really showed me that it is nonsensical to work for 8 hours consistently without taking a break. It was nonsensical to be stationed at my desk for 8 hours and not take a break, because the quality of work was less than desirable. Because let's face it, I'm not a machine, you're not a machine, and we will and do get tired. And if you're tired, your brain is tired, it means you're not performing at your best. And I wasn't performing at my best. And to combat that, developed the habit of taking regular breaks and working in blocks of time or on a task by task basis. And in the day, carve out time to take a nap. Long enough to have an impact, or short enough to have an impact, but not too long to disturb your sleep cycle. So that was really helpful for me, and that's definitely a lesson I'm taking into 2021, which is to take breaks, and naps are important. They're not just for kids. The second lesson that I'm taking with me into 2021, self-education. And by that I mean being a lifelong student. So this doesn't mean formally enrolling in an academic institution, but if there is a skill I want to learn and there is a little course that's available, or if there are a series of webinars or YouTube instructional videos or any kind of material I can find, self-education is important because it keeps you occupied, you learn a new skill, and that was very important in 2020. The ability to pivot and change, because so many persons lost jobs. So many persons had to quickly pivot, fall on a new skill, create a new skill to keep themselves viable and to keep themselves working. And unfortunately, not everybody could do that. So that's definitely a lesson I'm taking with me into 2021, where if there's something I want to learn to do, then by all means, I should go ahead and learn it. Give myself a new experience and learn a new skill. It will serve me in the long run, and knowledge is never wasted. The ability to learn something new is never a wasted experience. So that for me is an important lesson that I'm definitely taking with me into 2021, and I encourage you to do the same. And if that means there's a course that you wanted to do and you have to enroll in school, then by all means, and if you don't have the funds right now, then find an alternative that will give you that skill. It's all about being resourceful. It's all about taking the initiative. It's all about paying attention to what is happening in the world, in the labor markets, in all markets, and what can you do to position yourself better? What can you do to secure an income or multiple incomes? What can you do to take care of yourself and your family? And does it mean you need to shift careers? Does it mean you need to pivot? Does it mean you need to change your business? Whatever your circumstance is, self-education is going to be important. And I tie into that self-development, personal development. Are there things about your personality that you need to work on? Are there things about your character that need some work? Do you have some shadow work that you need to do if we're going to talk about the spiritual aspect of your existence? Do you need to see a therapist? Do you need to see a counselor? Are there relationships that you need to mend? Are there relationships that you need to walk away from? How is the relationship with yourself? So those are some important questions that I encourage you to ask yourself as you stand on the threshold of a new year, and do your own personal evaluations and think about the lessons that you want to take into 2021 with you as well. So the third lesson that I want to take with me into 2021 is boundaries are super important. I did an entire episode on boundaries, and I'm going to encourage you, if you have not yet done so, please go and listen to that episode. It's so important that you go and take that episode in. So just for your information, it's season 2, episode 3. 2020 really reminded me of the importance of setting, maintaining, enforcing boundaries. And when you do this, you may lose friends, you may lose relationships. And I say may, and I say lose, but if you really think about it, you haven't lost anything. In fact, you've gained something, and what you've gained is more peace, and you have gained more power, and you have enforced autonomy over your own life by maintaining your boundaries. Because here's the thing, if you have to enforce your boundaries with someone, whoever that person is, for whatever reason, and they take offense to it, and the relationship is terminated as a result, then that's not a relationship you should have had in the first place. And that's not a relationship you should hold on to. And I make no apologies about saying that, and I make no bones about holding that perspective, because your boundaries are created to protect you, right? To protect your personal space, to protect your emotional space, to protect the sanctity and the individuality that is you. Because some people don't know and they don't care about boundaries. Now imagine you are going through your own personal struggles and you are dealing with your own challenges, and a friend, and I'm going to use quotations here, comes to you with their problems, and you communicate to them that you do not have capacity to deal with their problems right now because you have your own problems to take care of. And you're honest, because there is a limit to your emotional battery. Yes, there is a limit to how much you can deal with on an emotional level, and you have to know what your limit is. So if you are aware of your limit and you communicate that you do not have the bandwidth to take on that person's emotional stress and their drama, and that person takes offense to you enforcing your boundaries and being honest about what you can and cannot deal with, then that's a person that you should happily usher out of your life. Usher him out. Usher her out. And I've had to do that. I've had to do that this year, and I make no apologies for it, because at the end of the day, self is important. I am important to me, and I'm number one in my life, and you should be number one in your life. So that means preserving everything that is you. And if you have to enforce a boundary for self-preservation, do it. It is your right. It is your prerogative to do so. So that was a lesson I was reminded of, and that is definitely a lesson I'm taking with me into the new year, because it served me well in 2020, and I'm confident that it will serve me in 2021. So the next lesson that I'm taking with me into the new year is be a friend to yourself first. And let me explain what I mean by being a friend to yourself first. It means the same care and compassion that you would show to someone else. Show that to yourself first. Take care of yourself first. If you don't love yourself, then how can you love another? If you can't take care of yourself, then how can you take care of another? If you have ever traveled anywhere and traveled by airplane, you would have seen the flight attendants prior to takeoff do their safety demonstration. And at a point in the demonstration, they will say to you, should the air pressure in the cabin fall and the oxygen masks are deployed, before you attend to someone else, please put your mask on first. And they demonstrate how to do so. Because if you try to assist someone with their mask before putting your mask on, it is very likely that you may pass out because of insufficient oxygen. And if you pass out, then you are of no help to yourself or to anybody else around you. In fact, you have made yourself a burden. And I'm certain that is clear to everybody who has ever traveled. So using that same analogy and that same example, be a friend to yourself first. Put yourself first with everything. So if you need to grieve for whatever reason, give yourself the time and the space and the room to grieve. You do no one any favors when you soldier on and pretend as if everything is okay. It is your right. You owe it to yourself to process your emotions, work through your emotions, work through all the stages of grief, and however you grieve is however you grieve. There is no prescribed way to grieve. There is no formula for grief. So however it looks to you, however it feels is your way of processing. Also, self-care. Self-care is important. And before you can demonstrate care to anybody else, you have to first give yourself that care. And it means taking care of yourself in terms of physically, so making sure you are eating right, and eating right means having a balanced diet, right? Make sure you're getting enough minerals and nutrients and vitamins for all the foods that you ingest. Make sure you're getting plenty of water. Make sure you maintain some level of physical activity. You're getting enough rest. You know how to manage your stress and the demands of life. You make time to have fun, right? So those are some important ways to show yourself self-care. And if you want to go above and beyond, get a massage or get a facial, or you want to sit in a corner and meditate, or whatever self-care looks like to you, do it. It is important. I also want to call out that there is an aspect of self-care that we rarely touch on, because when you look at Instagram memes and you look at all these posts and all these graphics about what self-care looks like, it always looks cute and warm and fuzzy. Right? You have on some pretty fuzzy slippers and a nice robe, and your hair is up in a turban, and you're playing some music, and you're burning incense, and you're painting your nails, and you're sipping on some wine, champagne, or some alkaline water, whatever the hell it looks like for you. That's predominantly the image that is portrayed for self-care. I want to talk about the other side of self-care, which is the shadow work that we need to do. And by shadow work, I mean that dark, ugly, uncomfortable side of our personality or character or existence that we don't face, hardly face, are afraid to face, but rears its head in circumstances, situations, relationships, and causes problems. So whether it comes from childhood trauma, adolescent trauma, adult trauma, whatever the source is, all of us have shadows. And if left unchecked, if left ignored, can seriously impact the quality of your life. And I'm talking about interpersonal relationships. I'm talking about a relationship with your very own self. And for me, that is an important part of self-care. If you care about yourself, if you value yourself, then you also have to pay attention to that part of what self-care looks like and do the work, do the shadow work. It may require you having to see a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist and talking about the issues. What was the trauma? Work through that. Be aware of these little things about your personality that may need some fixing, because guess what? None of us are perfect, but what we should strive to be is better than we were the day before. And it will require work. It requires a heightened sense of self-awareness. It requires reflection and introspection, be it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, but those things must happen. You cannot live your life in autopilot. You cannot just go through life going with the flow, totally unaware of who you are, how you are, and just live and exist. You have to be an active participant in your own life. You have to know who you are. You have to be aware of who you are. You also have to be aware of the areas that need work. And that for me is self-care. And that is a lesson that I'm taking with me into 2021. I'm going to be a friend to myself first. And in so doing, it will allow me to be a friend to others. I'm going to show myself care, compassion, kindness, grace. I'm going to give myself room to fail, room to make mistakes, room to mess up. I'm going to forgive myself, right? I'm going to learn from those lessons and I'm going to move on. When I can do that for myself, I can do that for others. I can give you the room to make mistakes. I can give you the room to fail. I can give you the room to mess up. And I can forgive and we can move on. The next lesson I want to take with me into the new year is health is wealth. the end. I'm joking. It could very well be. Because really, what do I need to say about health is wealth? That really speaks for itself, doesn't it? It really and truly speaks for itself. If you don't have health, what do you have? What do you have? How many examples do we see around us where an individual strives and works and perseveres and grinds and hustles and gets it, achieves that success, and they don't live long to enjoy it? Why? Because in the pursuit of their success, they neglected their health. And on achieving said success, there was not enough health around available for them to enjoy that success. So my encouragement to myself and to everyone that listens to this episode, please make your health a priority. If you don't have health, you don't have wealth, you have nothing. You cannot exist on this earth without a physical body. We have not yet come up with the technology. Lord knows Elon Musk and his friends are trying to come up with human 2.0. They're not quite there yet, but they sure are trying. But until then, the body that you were born in, that changes every 7 years, is the one in which you have to inhabit if you want to stay on this earth. So take care of it. Feed it well. Give it enough water to drink. Make sure it rests. Make sure it exercises or does enough physical activity to keep you fit. Make sure you manage your stress and have good relationships that will fulfill it. Talking about it like it's a machine, but you get the idea. Take care of yourself. Take care of your body, and your body will take care of you. The next lesson that I'm going to take with me to 2021 is listening to the inner voice. And in so doing, I need to be mindful of my environment. I say all the lessons are important, and this one is indeed important as well. I did an episode on silencing the noise, and if you haven't listened to that one too, then I encourage you to do so. That episode, for your information, to make life easier for you, is season 2, episode 7. So back to this lesson, paying attention to your inner voice. Nobody knows you better than you. That's a fact. You should trust nobody more than you trust yourself. And that comes with practice, and that comes with a lot of evidence and a lot of examples that you can trust yourself. It also comes with instances where you may or may not have betrayed yourself, but you have forgiven yourself and moved on. And all of those things add up to your ability to pay attention to your inner voice. Some people will call it your inner guiding system, or your instinct, or your gut instinct, or there's so many words for it. But the fact is, you should listen to it. You should pay attention to it. You should learn to trust it, because it is there to guide you. And that was something that 2020 reminded me of and taught me. Pay attention to my inner voice. The external noise cannot have more say in a discussion than what is going on inside me, because at the end of the day, my life is my own and I will have to give account for it. So I cannot take on board an outsider's opinion. Whoever that outsider is, it could be my parents, it could be my sibling, it could be a dear friend. Their opinion cannot outweigh my own, especially about my own life. And 2020 reminded me of that. So that's a lesson I am for sure taking with me into the new year, that I need to pay attention to my inner voice. Trust it more. I have enough evidence and examples of how things worked out beautifully and seamlessly for me when I trusted and listened to my inner voice, and how I was in abject misery and really had to learn the hard way when I didn't. So I encourage you, if you don't already do so, start. Don't wait. Start. You have that inner voice for a reason. Use it. Use it up. Now, this is the 7th and final lesson that I'm taking with me into the new year. And this lesson is build a legacy. And by that I mean having an impact in the world. And when I think about the kind of impact I want to have, or when I think about what impact in the world means to me, I think about 2 people, 2 special people. I think about Kobe Bryant and Chadwick Boseman. And that's the kind of legacy, or that's just one aspect of the kind of legacy I want to leave behind, and what I will challenge myself to do in my own way in 2021. Now, there have been so many articles, interviews, documentaries, programs, you name it, that have been done on Kobe Bryant and his excellence in basketball. But that's not what stood out for me. What stood out for me was the kind of human being he was, and his personal philosophy that impacted his work ethic and influenced his mindset, which also transformed his lifestyle and his accomplishments. That's what stood out for me, because you can be excellent at whatever and you can also be a trash human being. The two are not related. So for me, Kobe being an awesome human being and people talking about the relationship they had with him, the conversations they had, the influence he had over their lives, and the impact just by him being who he was and the mentality he brought to everything that he got involved with. You hear people talk about the Mamba mentality. That's all you could hear around the time of his passing and homegoing. So that's a lesson. That's the lesson I want to take with me into the new year. Strive to be the best human being I can be. And for every interaction I have, I leave something with you, and that something is a good thing. So once you go from my presence, you go away feeling good about yourself first and foremost, and about something else. The same for Chadwick Boseman. People talked about his acting abilities, the talent he had, the amazing works that he did in his movies, the fact that he was dying when he did all these amazing films, and it spoke to his grit and his perseverance. And those are definitely things that I want to keep honing in my own life, and things that I want to keep working on, that perseverance, that tenacity, that grit. Absolutely. But for me, it was how kind he was, how giving he was, how available he made himself. He advocated for certain things in the movies because he thought it was the right thing to do. He was willing to work with other actors because it wasn't just about him shining as Black Panther. He wanted his co-stars to also shine as well. So he would give of his time. And for me, that's what stood out. So these two phenomenal men, they were that not just because of what they did and what they accomplished, but because of who they were. And we will talk about them for years to come. And that's the kind of impact that I want to have, and I'm not afraid to say it. And 2021 will see me working to accomplish that. And that work is going to be private and inner work, because that is not something that you do in public. The public will see the fruits of your private inner work, but that's definitely something that I want to do. And I challenge you, as my beautiful souls listening to this episode, that you too will want to do that inner work to make yourself a better human being. Believe it or not, we were put on this earth to love. Think about it. How you shine and glow, and how amazing you feel when you are doing an act of love, an act of kindness when you love. There is no greater feeling than that. And think about how you feel when you are angry with someone, or you're fighting with someone, or there's a conflict. Why? Because that is going against your natural nature. We were not made to be angry creatures. We were not made to thrive off of conflict. We were made to love. And if you are religious and you know your Bible, you will know the final commandment that Jesus gave as he ascended into heaven was love thy neighbor as thyself. It wasn't to go and set up church churches in my name. It wasn't to go and preach and create all these denominations and build all these buildings and collect all these offerings and do all these fantastic things. It was to love, because that is what we were put on this earth to do, to love. And if you want to do amazing things, that is where it comes from. It has to come from a place of love, and you have to first love yourself before you can love others. You have to first do that inner work before you can do any outer work. So I challenge myself and I challenge you. What kind of legacy are you going to leave? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? And what kind of work will you need to do to leave that kind of legacy? Legacy also means for me something tangible. 2020 really taught a lot of us that we don't have careers, we have jobs, and a job is you just over broke. You're just one check away from being homeless. 2020 for sure taught a lot of us that harsh lesson. So what does that mean? It means we have to get creative. The order of the day for us in the new year has to be creating multiple income streams. And I'm not going to hide it. That is the only way we're going to survive. Gone are the days when you can bank your buck on one paycheck. Gone are the days when you can plan your life on one paycheck. If 2020 didn't teach us anything else, it for sure taught us that. Cannot survive off of one paycheck. In fact, living off of one income is you hustling in reverse. And I'm going to credit Kezia for that. I'll put her Instagram handle in the show notes. If you are only living off of one paycheck, you are hustling in reverse. Stop it. That's a lesson for me that I humbly accept. That's a lesson I'm encouraging you to take on. For 2021, I challenge you. I'm challenging myself and I'm challenging you as well. How are you going to create multiple income streams? How are you going to be creative? What kind of tangible legacy are you going to leave for your children or your grandchildren? Do you have a strategy? Do you even know where to begin? I'm going to leave some resources for you that should get you thinking and get those creative juices flowing. But 2021, it has to be a year where you're not playing games. 2020, we had to sit down, really sit down in a corner somewhere like we were on timeout. The bell is about to ring. We're not going to be in timeout anymore. It's time to hit the ground running. So on one hand, there is the impact. And on the other hand, there is the tangible legacy. So 2021 needs to be the year where you start, where you lay that foundation. So my beautiful souls, what a year 2020 has been. There are 15 more minutes left in the year. What a ride it has been. This year has been like no other, and I trust that we will not see another year like it. What I do know for sure is that we are resilient. We are tenacious. We're adaptable. We're kind beings. And because of those things, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Not all of us made it through. And I encourage you to grieve, not just for the loved ones that you lost, but for life as you knew it. January and February, going to the movies was a thing. Dining out was a thing. Crowds in a grocery store, supermarket was a thing. Hugging people was a thing. Live concerts, parties, events, working in an office was a thing. Sending your kids to school for face-to-face interaction was a thing. Coughing in public was a thing. And then March came. Now masks are a thing. Hand sanitizer is a thing. Temperature checks before admission into a building is a thing. 6 feet apart is a thing. COVID tests is a thing. Vaccines are a thing. None of us saw this coming. Conspiracy theorists will tell you differently, but that is another conversation for another time. But none of us saw this coming. But yet, we were able to pivot and adapt. Wasn't easy, it wasn't graceful, wasn't pleasant, but we did it. We made do, and we're still here. And that's enough evidence for me to believe that whatever 2021 brings, we'll roll with it. It might not be nice. might not be easy, won't be pleasant, but we'll roll with it because that's just who we are. So thank you so much for listening. It was my absolute pleasure to do this final episode for season 2 and for 2020. I want to thank you for your support. All the countries that listen, shout out to Jamaica, the land of my birth. Shout out to Canada, that's my new home. Shout out to my friends in Nigeria, in Sweden, in Germany, in Rwanda, in Singapore, in Italy, in the US, in the UK. Shout out to all those amazing, beautiful souls in all those fabulous countries. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the encouragement. If you didn't know, I'm telling you here, I now have a YouTube channel. Please go like, share, and subscribe. If you have friends who are not into podcasts, but they do watch YouTube videos, please, I'm going to drop the link in the show notes as well. Please go search for it on YouTube and share the love. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share it like food. Share it, man. Share it up. I look forward to bringing you more excellent content in 2021. I look forward to bringing on more fabulous guests for the new season 3. I look forward to doing more inspiring, soul-stirring interviews. I look forward to more proverbs and short stories and just giving you my perspective, sharing with you a new perspective, because guess what? At the end of the day, it's the perspective that matters. So thank you. This is me signing out for 2020. And remember, there are 2 sides to every coin. Just flip it to get the full view. Catch you next week. Maybe not. Bye.